What's up guys, Christian Babcock here of The Hunter's Advantage, and in today's video we're going to be doing an in-depth review of the new budget cell camera from Exodus Outdoor Gear, the Exodus Rival. I've been using 3 of the Exodus Rival cell cameras on my deer lease in Oklahoma for the last 3 months. I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of experience with the photo and video performance, the battery life, and any potential issues that came up with these cameras, whether that be on the hardware or connecting to the app that controls the cameras. And I wanted to do all of that before I shared my review with you guys. With that being said, let's get into it. So first I wanted to talk with you guys about the design of the camera and the price. This isn't Exodus's first go around putting out a cell camera. They have a flagship render 4G cell camera that they've put out, but the camera is well over $300. So the Rival was their stab at a budget-friendly camera that still offered reliable performance, but it ends up being a lot more affordable for the average guy who doesn't want to spend $350 for a cell camera. The Exodus Rival comes in at $179.99, which puts it in that budget cell camera range. I would say any cell camera under $200 is in that budget-friendly range. You can see them anywhere from $75 to $200. And full transparency, Exodus sent us these cameras. They sent us 5 Rivals and 5 SP18 solar panels to test out. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 3 months. Right out of the box, I noticed that the Exodus Rival is a really small, compact camera. I've used 4 different cell camera brands over the years, and some of them look really small in the packaging, and then you take them out and they're about 3 inches thick and they look like a giant brick and take 16 batteries. That's not the case with the Rival. It's very small, very compact. It's a 12-volt camera and it takes 8 AA lithium batteries. And like most cell cams, it has a port for plugging in a solar panel, which is really handy for those places where you want to set the camera for the long term and just leave it. So let's dig into some of the meat and potatoes of this video, and probably what you guys are worried about the most, which is the performance and the battery life. So I'm one of those people, whether it be arrows or cell cameras or GoPros, any type of technology that I could be putting a review out on, do a lot of testing before I'm willing to put out my opinion, because there's stuff you can't learn using a camera for a week or 2 weeks. Same thing with arrows. The last time I tested the Exodus MMT arrow, I shot 5 deer with it before I even put out a video. And I felt like that gave me the amount of experience I needed to talk knowledgeably. And that's the same thing we've done with the Rival. The picture quality on the Rival is really, really sharp. Within the Scout Tech application, it gives you the ability to change it from photo or video mode or time lapse. And what I like about it is you can even select the megapixel, whether you want an extremely sharp picture and use more data, or you're okay with something a little bit more blurry and requesting HD later. That's up to you. One of the ones that I was most impressed with was I had a picture of a hawk mid-flight come into the camera frame. The Rival snaps a picture of it mid-flight, and I could tell immediately it was a bird. In the blurrier version of the picture, I requested HD, and this is one of the coolest pictures I've ever got on any trail camera, SD or cell camera, and it really speaks to the trigger speed of the Rival by being able to catch a bird mid-flight. I've got several other really good photos. I feel like when a buck is real close, looking directly in the camera, that gives you the best idea of what kind of picture quality you can get out of one of these cameras. And I'm going to show you a few of them here. This one is a really big 8-pointer with good width, good eye guards, and even a drop tine and a ton of stickers. He's looking directly at the camera. I got this picture in a non-HD format and then requested it in HD, and when it came in, I was pretty blown away. It's actually the same buck that we're using in the thumbnail of this video. And I've got several other pictures that I'm going to scroll through right here that are pretty much the exact same way. Whether it is real close, right next to the camera taking the picture, or it's 15 or 20 feet back, you can really make out what's going on with the picture quality of the Rival. As far as video performance goes, we have a really nice kind of natural contour in the middle of our lease, and we've been running a cell camera in video mode for years. It's a great place to stick a camera in video mode because a lot of the bucks that bed on the place, it's kind of a natural travel corridor, and you can get great video of them walking in and then walking away. Video is awesome because you can really tell not only the personality of a deer, you can tell a lot more about his antlers and kind of how they sit on his head, the proportion of all those sort of things. It's not the sharpest video that I've ever seen out of a cell camera, but at the end of the day, it gives you a ton of intel into these bucks, maybe where they're coming from, how they're using the property, and then a lot more about their antler characteristics. Now, I will say when you run in video mode, you consume a lot more data. And so if you're in one of those spots that you can pick up a lot of grass, you can always mess with the trigger sensitivity on your cell camera to prevent getting grass pictures. But if you're in one of those spots where the grass is waving wheat, like my lease, those videos are really gonna chew through your data. So it's something to be mindful of. One of the most important things to me in a cell camera is the battery life. If you guys are anything like me, you've been to Walmart or been to Amazon and seen the price of lithium batteries in the last season, it is absolutely nuts. If you remember earlier, I talked about how compact the Rival was, and that's a great thing from a battery perspective too. It's a 12-volt camera, so it only takes 8 batteries compared to most cell cams that run 12 or 16. So in those instances where you're running a cell camera that takes 16 batteries, you can cut your cost in half just by running an Exodus Rival. Think that, since it only runs 8 batteries instead of 12 or 16, the battery life has to be half as good. And that's just not the case. So I have 3 Exodus Rival cell cameras out on my lease right now, and I've been running them for nearly 3 months. 2 of them have the SP18 solar panels, and one of them is just running straight on the lithium batteries. So I wasn't surprised when I checked the battery life on my solar panel cameras, and they were still at 100% 3 months later after setting them out. But what really surprised me was the Rival that I checked running purely on lithium batteries. I got the camera set on video mode, sending me 8-second video, and it's set on instantaneous send. So that means every single time it takes a video, it sends it to me pretty much instantly. And here's the crazy part. That Rival cell camera is still at 100% battery almost 3 months later. It's not the most active part of the property. I don't get hundreds of videos a day, but it would be nothing for me to get a dozen or 2 dozen videos a day. And nearly 3 months later, that camera is still at 100% battery, or at least that's what the app is telling me. I have no reason to not believe the Scout Tech app until my camera dies and quits sending me pictures. Battery life is probably one of the most important things to me because the 2 leases that I have in Oklahoma are over 6 hours away from where I live in Central Texas. Let's dig into the data plans for the Exodus outdoor gear cell cameras. So Exodus is a little bit different in the way they do their data plans. They charge a flat fee for each camera called a line fee. And then on top of that, you buy a bulk data plan that all your cameras share. For my 3 cell cams, I pay $7 a piece for the line fee, so 21 bucks, and then I buy a 500 megabyte data plan, which they all share, and that's another 20 bucks a month. If you're running most of your cameras in picture mode, you're gonna be fine. And the shared data plan might not be a big deal when you're just running 1 or 2 or 3 cameras, but I feel like when you start running 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the ability to not pay $12 to $18 per camera is where you can really see the money savings. So $7 line fee, that's always flat cost. But on top of that, the more cameras you have, the easier I feel like it is to share that data plan, and it makes it a lot cheaper in the long run. And within the Scout Tech app, it kind of shows you a forecast of how much you're using and tells you when you're expected to run out of data. So it's not like one day you just wake up and you don't know that your camera's going to be working anymore. You can see all that within the app. Let's quickly talk about some of the pros of the camera and recap, and then I'll get into some of the things that I didn't like about the Exodus Rival. One of the biggest pros of the Rival for me was reliability. I'm not gonna bash any other cell camera brands, but this last Christmas season before I got my Rivals, I had a bunch of other cell cameras. They were all from the same manufacturer. I ran those parallel alongside kind of as backup cameras on my lease with my Rivals. I had 4 of those cameras stop one day simultaneously, and I went out to the lease and I confirmed that they were all still working. They all had battery life, they just disconnected from the app and never came back on. And I know it was an issue with this one manufacturer because my rivals, which are sitting legitimately in the same tree or next to the same tree as these other cell cams, were still running and they were using the same AT&T network. So far, pairing the rival within the ScoutTech app, I have had no issues with reliability, which gives me a lot of peace of mind. I briefly talked about it earlier, but I do think the rivals give you great photo and video performance. I've got some of my best pictures ever on these trail cams. On top of that, the customer service at Exodus is just awesome. They pretty much have a landline phone number that you call and talk to someone immediately. I had an issue with a data overage and suspending my cameras, so I didn't know how within the app how to turn them back on. And I called and one of their guys walked me through it. Took less than 60 seconds and they assured me if you have any other issues, call back. Another thing that I did want to talk about that I thought Exodus didn't do a great job calling out was the unlimited HD photos you can get for free. That is a really big deal. Of course, we like binging trail cam photos, but what we like even more than that is looking at high quality photos of bucks and being able to zoom in and see really sharp detail, whether there's a sticker on the base or kickers coming off the G2s. All those details are awesome to see, and HD pics are what is going to allow you to do that. This is awesome because I've seen a lot of other manufacturers charge $5 for 50 photos. And if you're anything like me, a big buck comes in and there's 10 photos of him. Well, I want all 10 of them in HD. I want to see every single angle of that buck. So you're not limited there, and there's not going to be any upcharge just because you want to see HD photos. The last thing I want to talk about on the pros is the 5-year no BS warranty. I feel like Exodus has one of the best warranties in the game. 5 years, no BS, theft and damage protection with every single camera. All you have to do is scan the QR code that is on a sticker on the camera when you open it up on the box. We've done a lot of praising for the rival in this video, so it's time to bring this review back to earth and talk about some of the cons. The first con I would mention about the rival is the price. Earlier I talked about the range for a budget cell camera, and I think that's anywhere from probably 75 bucks to 200 bucks, and you kind of step up from there. The rival is in the upper echelon of that range at $179.99. I know they'll run sales like Velvet Fest from time to time where you can get 15% off, and it brings it more down to that $150 mark, which I think is right in line with some of the better manufacturers for the budget cameras. I would argue you get what you pay for, but for someone that is really looking for something on a budget and doesn't care about performance at all, this isn't going to be the cheapest budget cell camera that's out there. It's right in that sweet spot of really great performance at a good cost, so that's just something to consider. The second con I would talk about with this camera isn't really with the camera at all. It's within the ScoutTech app. Every time I switch cell cameras or add a different brand to my arsenal, it always kind of worries me. Every application is different and they all work in a slightly different way. So the ScoutTech app, it's a pretty basic looking app when you get into it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm all about the KISS acronym, the keep it simple, stupid. So it is idiot proof in that way. But one of the first things that I had an issue with when I switched to the Exodus rivals was in the ScoutTech app, I wasn't getting new pictures every evening. And I was getting pictures on my other cell camera that I set up as kind of a test one right next to it, so it was really confusing me. I knew deer were in the area, but I wasn't getting the pictures. I called into Exodus customer service and they told me that something you have to do every time you use the application is exit out of it on your iPhone or Android, and that kind of restarts the app and makes it search for those pictures once again. So it's something to be mindful of. You know, a lot of other apps aren't that way, but if you're sitting there frustrated with the ScoutTech app and you're like, why am I not getting pictures? I know there's deer in there. Try swiping up out of the application and reopening it that way. And that always fixed my issue. And it's not really necessarily a flaw. It's just something to be mindful of when you're using your app. The last con that I would talk about with the rival is the latch on the side of the camera. Every budget camera that I've ever used has a cheaper plastic latch on the side of the camera, which I feel like could be pretty easy to break off if you really started messing with it. And the rival's no different. It can feel a little bit flimsy at times. Is it going to be an issue with you? Probably not. But one thing to be mindful of on the camera is it doesn't take a ton of pressure pulling that latch out for it to open. And this isn't unique to Exodus's camera. I've seen this same thing with Moultrie cameras or Tacticams or spy points. I feel like it's kind of a general problem for budget cell cameras, but it's something to be mindful of. When you leave that camera out, and if you're at a place that you can't check it very often, make sure that latch is tightly secured. You don't want any water, moisture, or anything getting into that camera. With that, let's wrap up with some final thoughts about the Exodus Rival. To be fully transparent with you guys, Exodus Outdoor Gear is a partner of the Hunter's Advantage. What I can assure you guys of is we do not use junk, and we really don't feel comfortable recommending anything to you guys that we wouldn't use ourselves. I'm relying on these cameras in the best spots I have to hunt whitetail bucks this season, so I really have confidence that they work. We're always going to be honest about the pros and the cons of the equipment that we're using, whether it's a sponsor's product or not. It does us no good to beat around the bush or tell you guys something that's not true and hope that you use a code and buy our sponsor's product. But if you did enjoy this review, or you do want to pick up an Exodus Rival or some of their MMT arrows, you can use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off anything at ExodusOutdoorGear.com. We hope you guys enjoy these reviews. We're not the type of channel that's going to sit there and walk you through the speeds and feeds, the trigger speeds, the foot detection, all of that stuff. We're going to talk you through our personal experience with the product. I cannot stand in reviews when I see people say, well, hypothetically, this should work, or according to these specs, this should work, or yeah, the app looks really good, I hope the camera works. We're not those guys. But if you guys enjoy these kind of videos from the channel, make sure to give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn the bell notification on so you're notified when we post more hunting content, podcast, or gear reviews. We really appreciate the support, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.